Everyone, and welcome to this ECB focus session. My name is Aileen, and I'm here with the fantastic team of ECB speakers and support staff. We are here today to take you through today's focus session topic, target services. And what we want to do today is give you an update on where we stand today and where we are heading. So we'll take a glance into the future initiatives. Today, we're going to do it a little bit different than normally because we're going to touch a lot of the different target services. So we will be handling T2. We will be talking about TIPS, so the retail payment system, T2S, the security settlement system, and ECMS, the coming collateral management system set to go live in less than a month. So really a lot of stuff ready for you today at this event. Before we dive into it, some of you, just to warm everyone up before it's us giving information to all, we want to just ask you all to grab your smartphones and then scan the QR code on the screen now. So this is just like a little ice break question. There's 5 of them, but they're super quick. So grab your phones, scan the QR code, and then quickly just respond to these 5 warm-up questions. It is really a bit like a warm-up because today's event is super active. We're going to have 2 hours of, a marathon running here. So, get ready to tighten your belts. But this way is the way that we will communicate with you in today's event. So, just a second to do that. As experience have shown us, you guys are very interested in these events. So we have a lot of people registered for today. For this reason, we will be live streaming everything we do today. So you will be able to either watch the live stream, or if you already signed up for the teams, you can stay here too. However, we would encourage many of you, if possible, to move to the live stream because it just gives us a little bit more maneuvering room inside the virtual team setting, and that makes everything go more smooth. So maybe just to be on the safe side, take a snapshot of this so you know where to go if you are facing difficulties later on. You can really just go to the YouTube link, and here you will be viewing everything just like if you were in the Teams meeting. So these are the 2 options. Again, you can also scan the QR code, and this is another way of getting to the live stream. So keep that at hand somewhere in case you're facing difficulties. All right, so how can you engage with us? As always, we love the interaction. We do these events for you. The purpose of the event is really for us to share some news about our target services. But what is super important is that you get the opportunity to post questions to us. So this we encourage you to do. You are always very engaged here, and we're super happy with this. So keep going up with the questions. The way to do questions. So again, there's 2 ways of doing it. The ones who have signed up, you would have received an email yesterday, a welcome email. Don't delete that email. It's an email with a lot of good information in there. So in the email, there's a link. If you open up that link, you will have it in a new browser. You will be able to submit questions throughout the event. So in that link, it's a forms. And in the inside forms, you can just post questions as they come as we go through the program today. If you don't have that email at hand, you can also scan again the QR code, and that will open again a place where you can just submit questions throughout the event. If you prefer none of the 2, you can use the email displayed on the screen now. So mip.events@ecb.europa.eu. And here we will also be picking up on those questions that you post via email. So that's the way to do it. You are all muted. You can raise your hand, but we're not taking questions verbally because it would just kill the whole event because we're so many people. So from a sound perspective, we cannot do that. So we will be lowering hands if they are raised because you cannot speak anyway. So put your questions into the chat or into the email. So that's most of the information I wanted to share with you today. But just before we dive into all the topics, I just want to remind you that the best way to follow us and stay up to date about what is happening at the ECB regards to target services, payments, and market infrastructure is to follow us on one of these channels. We're on Twitter. We have a LinkedIn group, ECB Market Infrastructure and Payments, or you can subscribe to our newsletter and you can see it here. So just take a snapshot of that for later. And that's it from my side. And then I'm just really, really excited to get started on the program. We have really interesting topics ahead of us today. So without any further ado, I just want to bring on our first speaker. I'm delighted to have Ulrik Windsal, Director General at Market Infrastructure and Payments, ECB, with us today. Ulrik, the floor is yours. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Eline. And good morning to everybody. Thank you for joining to this session. I see we have 500 people almost. That is fantastic. And yeah, I will just give an overview looking back first and then looking a bit forward, but really as an appetizer to the main presentations that follow afterwards. Yeah. So let me start with let's say, looking back at our achievements, if I may call them like this. So we, as you know, as every central bank, we started, or we offer an RTGS system that we did as of the start of the euro. It was at the very core of the integration of those several, monetary areas into one, the interlinking of the domestic RTGS systems in Target and Target 2. Then came T2S, and what has been ongoing now for the last years was something called ongoing in terms of new developments, was something called Vision 2020 in 2015. It was a set of initiatives which was called like that. And I guess that Vision 2020 was meant also to indicate that by 2020, some of those things should be working. And actually, yeah, it took a bit longer, partially even for all of the initiatives. And to remind, there were three key initiatives which were bundled under this Vision 2020 name. That was the consolidation project, which encompasses Target 2 and T2S. And then there was the instant payment system TIPS, which went live. That one went live even before 2020, so it went live in 2018. And then the last and still to go live of the three is ECMS. Will go live, as has been announced, has been confirmed for 16th of June, very soon, which will replace the 20 still existing individual NCB collateral management systems. So yeah, we are not, I wouldn't say in the middle, we are very close to the very end of the implementation of those three components. And I think it's fair to say they all, two of them which went live have fully met their expectations. So the idea of TIPS to settle in central bank money for instant payments, which are deemed to be the new normal for retail payment, was very successful and has been, I think, also looked at by other central banks around the world, who then followed this example, like FedNow in the US somewhat later. And the consolidation project T2, T2S not only brought a synergy between those two services, some common components, but also allowed or encompassed the redesign of the RTGS system, which is now called T2 instead of Target 2, as it was called in the years beforehand. And so where are we today? What is to mention for today? So one thing is we can celebrate actually today the 10-year, today or this year, the 10-year anniversary of T2S. And T2S, one could say, amongst all our projects and platforms, this is was the biggest endeavor now because security settlement is complex. It's a big industry, and we have achieved with T2S, I think, a great deal of integration and harmonization in post-trade in Europe, where we came from a very fragmented system now. And so we have organized that in a way to integrate, make it more efficient, but preserve the ecosystem of CSDs. And one other feature I would like to mention that we have pursued now consistently, or even before Vision 2020, is the multi-currency ability of target services. So the pioneer in this was T2S, and Denmark joining T2S in Danish kroner at an early stage. And in the meantime, Denmark is completely on target services in T2, T2S, and TIPS. T2 and TIPS very recently, one month ago. And Sweden uses TIPS now for a bit more than a year. So Sweden, let's say, pioneered the multi-currency feature of TIPS. And we have also, as was announced also by those central banks, Norway and Iceland interested in joining certain target services. And on top, let's say, of this multi-currency capability, not to be mixed up with it, the idea of cross-currency settlement, which we focus on for TIPS. And so for TIPS, we work with Denmark's Nationalbank and Sveriges Riksbank on a cross-currency settlement, meaning that you can make an instant or faster transfer using TIPS on both sides, and sending money in one currency and it arriving on an account in the other currency, which obviously requires an FX conversion. So that we have announced we are working on, and we hope to deploy that as of end of next year if everything goes well. And now looking, even more into the future, one thing that many of you have even participated to is the explorations last year of settlement in central bank money in the context of transactions recorded in DLT, so securities in DLT being then settled, delivery versus payment in central bank money. And here, we had those extensive explorations last year, and we came up recently then with an announcement to continue that work and to have two tracks, as we call them, a short-term solution, track 1, and then a longer-term solution, track 2. And very briefly, track 1 is about an interoperability solution, so somewhat, inspired by the exploration we had last year. So the settlement of, let's say, the security or other asset is on the DLT, and there is a link via an API, application programming interface, into target services for the DVP or PVP settlement in central bank money. So that we will host a dedicated focus session on that in June. And although interoperability solutions have also some weaknesses, we believed that this was the right approach because it can be delivered in a timely manner, relatively quickly, timeline to be announced in more detail because of the exploration we did last year and the experience we collected in the context of those explorations. And then the question is, what is the longer term solution? And that has a really question mark. So there, the work will be of truly maybe more analytical nature first, but then also should of course progress with hands-on work. And the general idea behind it is that, contrary to interoperability solutions, integrated solutions, where an integrated DLT platform can host various layers of this ecosystem and various assets, and fully deploy the possibilities then to have all those assets on one platform, and with smart contracts allowing, in principle, a lot of things to happen in the most efficient way. But that is at an earlier stage and constitutes what we call the track 2. And then another work stream that has been announced in October 2024 is the cross-border, improving cross-border payments through interlinking. I already mentioned the interlinking of currencies which are in TIPS, which we had announced earlier. But this one is new because it goes beyond Europe, it goes beyond TIPS. And we announced 3, let's say, pillars of this work. One is to explore if we can interlink with Nexus, which is a multilateral platform for connecting fast payment systems coming out of the BIS innovation hubs, and then to interlink with India's UPI system, a bilateral connection in view of the, let's say, advanced experience and practice of India in fast payments and in interlinking. And then also, using TIPS for other, connecting with other fast payment systems outside the euro area, relying essentially on the one leg out scheme and seeing what can be put on top of this without really a technical connection. And let's not forget, beyond all those new projects, if you want to call it like this, we have always the evolution, the continued evolution. We have regular new releases of all our target services, which come out, and those who are in the details, know about the change requests coming and all the work that is behind also with the industry and the testing, etc. Then maybe a bit, more ambitious or more fundamental even evolution is the possible extension of operating hours of Target 2. There will be soon a public consultation where you will be invited to react, asking about your appetite, your needs in terms of extending T2 operating hours. We may all have this vision now that in the long term we all operate in real time 24/7 around the year, but on the other side, those who operate know that 24/7, 365 means also different working hours. No, and is it practical, or is there a point to keep market sessions concentrated? Because then also liquidity concentrates, and it's maybe more efficient to concentrate. So all those questions will be in very practical terms in this public consultation. concluding remark, I already mentioned the industry is crucial for all that. We don't operate in a vacuum, and we don't want to offer services which are not, demanded for, because we are committed to efficiency and to cost recovery. Target services operate under cost recovery, so users have to pay for it. So we are bound, let's say, by the logic of the market and what is useful, and that, of course, we rely on you to tell us. So we have all those governance structures of target services. On top, we have AMI-SECO, AMI-Pay, where we gather industry input to be fully aware of the needs of market developments and to respond then with the right offers that we as central banks, for some reason, are the right ones to supply to the market. Yeah. So you have been crucial to this journey that I summarized, and you will be crucial for the future journey. And we hope we always find the right structures to engage you and that we listen to you and get your points. So then, today's event, let me hand over now quickly. So we will have, I think, 4 sessions. One will be on non-bank, payment service providers who will be able to join target T2 and TIPS in the future, thanks to the change of the settlement finality directive. Yeah, you see it on screen. Then we will have 1 session on TIPS in cross-border payments, and then on the T+1 initiative. Yeah, sorry, I haven't mentioned that one, but it is a very, very important initiative. And we have, we all, you and us have this deadline of 27, November 27, for moving from T+2 to T+1 in security settlement, and T2S plays there a role, of course. And in view of the complexity of Europe, that is far from trivial. That will be presented to you as well. So, and then we will have ECMS, and now focus on the operational aspects of ECMS, because as mentioned, 16th of June is the go live date and the end date of Vision 2020, which is then in 2025. So thank you very much for listening. And now I hand over then to Sylvain, or first to Eline again.
Thank you, Ulrik. Exactly. So like Ulrik said, lots of initiatives behind us already, but just as much ahead. So thank you very much, Ulrik, for joining us today and giving insights on this. And as you see, there's lots of stuff to tackle. So we're just going to jump straight into the first item of today. And I want to bring in Sylvain, who is head of division at the Market Integration Management Division at the ECB. So Sylvain, over to you.
Thank you, Eline. Good morning all. My name is Sylvain de Beaumont. I'm responsible for the operations of target services at the ECB, and it's my pleasure to share with you this morning some updates on our plans to broaden the access criteria to target services for non-banks. We can now jump directly to the slide, the next one. Yeah, even the next one on background. Good. So first of all, the connection of non-banks to target services is not something completely new. Shortly after the entry into force of the PSD, Eurosystem central banks, they had already been approached by non-banks, mainly payment institutions at that time, seeking access to targets, seeking access to Euro central bank money. Unfortunately, this was not possible at that time. There were obstacles. These obstacles were not of policy nature, they were more legal ones. More specifically, the Settlement Finality Directive, under which target is designated, did not include non-bank PSPs in the list of possible systems participants. This means that central banks could not accept non-banks as direct participants without putting at stake, without putting at risk the finality of the transactions. The situation remained unchanged until recently when discussions started on the instant payment regulation, which included the necessary changes to the SFDE and made it legally feasible to offer direct participation to non-bank TSPs. Can now move to the next slide. So from the moment the connection of non-banks was legally feasible, the question as to whether it was desirable from a policy viewpoint was put back on the agenda. In general, there was a large consensus around the fact that accepting non-bank PSPs would have positive effect on the efficiency of retail payment markets by fostering innovation and competition. It was also assessed that non-bank PSPs in target services would facilitate the provision of instant payments in the euro area. By the way, a large number of jurisdictions in the G20 came to similar conclusions and have accepted already for some of them for years, non-bank PSPs in their central bank systems. As always, when it comes to the target services, the new participation criteria shall be, and here I quote the PFMIs, which is kind of our Bible when it comes to oversight expectations. The participation criteria, they shall be objective, they shall be risk-based, and they shall be publicly disclosed. What does that mean? It means that when we are taking the decision to accept or to reject an application, it cannot be on discretionary or on arbitrary or discriminatory basis. The criteria, they need to be objective, they need to be motivated by risk considerations, and they have to be made public. Last point on this slide, the criteria that we would set for non-banks, they shall apply throughout the Eurosystem in a consistent and harmonized way. We want a uniform enforcement of the new rules across all the member states. Interestingly, you will notice that, or you have already noted that the policy stance, which was published in July 24, did not only apply to targets, but also to the other payment systems which are operated by central banks and which are not under the legal perimeter of target. Here, we are mainly speaking about the CSMs operated by some central banks, and they would also have to apply this new policy. We can move to the next slide. So more concretely, what are these access criteria that are or will be applicable to non-bank PSPs? The direct access would be granted to duly authorized payment institutions and electronic money institutions when they are established in the EEA. So we speak about non-banks in general, not bank PSPs for, I would say, convenience reasons, but actually it's these two specific forms of institution that we have in mind and that we will accept in target, so the payment institution and electronic money institution. Second point I'd like to make is that as operator of target, we need to ensure that our participants have reached a certain level of maturity when it comes to their operational capabilities or their ability to properly manage their risk. So for credit institution, we rely on the supervisors to carry out these verifications. We will follow a bit the same logic for these new entrants, and we will rely on the regulatory arrangements as set out in the PSD2. When it comes to the other operational or security requirements that we have in target, they will apply equally to credit institutions and to non-banks. In other terms, we are not lowering the bar, so to say. We do not accept a higher operational risk because we would have non-banks as participants. It's the exact same set of requirements that will apply to all categories of participants, banks and non-banks. We will see that more in detail in the coming slides. The access criteria for the non-bank PSPs, they were already disclosed in January this year in a dedicated ECB decision, which was published, of course, on the ECB website. This decision still needs to be implemented in the guideline, in the target guideline, as well as in the rules governing the other payment systems operated by Eurosystem and CBs. Can move to the next slide. Let me complement the eligibility criteria, which are more of a legal nature, with some practical details, having in mind more specifically the account setup. In principle, the non-banks, once they are accepted in target as direct participants, they will have access to the same payment services and the same system features as the credit institutions. There are, however, some exceptions or some differences which are highlighted here on this slide. The first difference is the fact that non-banks will not have access to credit, neither the refinancing operations nor the overnight credit or intraday credit. These are instruments that are restricted in principle to monetary policy counterparties. Second point is the fact that the accounts held by non-banks will bear no interest. It's the basic remuneration rules that will apply, which means in the current situation, 0%. An important aspect on which I'd like to shed some light concerns the safeguarding of funds. The funds on the target account held by the non-banks will not be treated as safeguarded funds. The funds on the target accounts, they will be deemed to be those of the non-bank PSP. By the way, it's a rule that applies already to all the credit institutions. We just apply the same rule as well to the non-banks. We consider that it's not a core function of the central bank to substitute to market participants for providing safeguarding services. Moreover, offering safeguarding at central banks would give rise to a number of policy concerns and might ultimately have negative impacts on the safety and soundness of the financial system. From a financial stability perspective, it is important that such accounts held by non-banks on target services are primarily used for payment purposes and are not used, or I would say misused, for safeguarding purposes. And for that reason, we will limit the funds that can be held on non-bank PSP's account to what is strictly necessary to meet the participant's settlement obligation. The limit will be set for each non-bank PSP. It's not going to be one size fits all. We will be looking at the situation of each non-bank PSP. The limit will be equal to twice the peak daily value of outward payments processed by the participant over a given period. That should give enough flexibility, enough buffer to non-banks to operate their accounts on target without difficulties. For the newly connected participant, we will be establishing the limits looking at the activity of the participant on a monthly basis, then quarterly basis, and once they have reached or once they have completed a full year of operation in targets, then we will use we will calculate the maximum over that period of 12 months, and afterwards, in the when we are at cruise speed somehow, the limit will be adjusted on a yearly basis. Let me add as well that the limits only apply to overnight balances. There will not be any capping of the funds that non-banks can hold on their account intraday. It's only at the end of the day that we will check the compliance with the limit. And if the limits are breached, then there will be penalties that will apply to the non-banks. We move to the next slide. So all these elements that we speak about, the access criteria and also the other practicalities, they will be implemented in the target guideline. It was initially planned to amend the target guidelines so that these changes enter into force on the 16th of June 2025. This is a communication we had been doing so far. Unfortunately, those plans, they had to be changed because of the delays in some member states in transposing the amendments to the SFD and to the PSD2 in their national legislations. So in order not to give rise to legal risk, the amendments to the guideline had been rescheduled to October this year, and a communication had been released last week, Thursday, on the ECB website. Still, that does not prevent the central banks operating their own CSMs to provide access to non-banks before that date of October, subject, of course, to their national legislation being amended in line with the PSD and SFD provisions. This does not prevent either the non-bank PSPs to already prepare their connection to target and to start their testing campaign even earlier than this date of October. We can move to the next slide. So if you are a non-bank PSP and you are interested in applying to a direct connection to target, it means if you want to hold an account in T2 or in TIPS, the procedure that you will have to follow is largely similar to the one that is in place for the existing participants, in the sense that you will have to, so these are only examples, but you will have to install an IT infrastructure to connect to the target service. You will need to provide a self-attestation that you are in compliance with the security requirements imposed by target, provide a reference data form to detail the setup of your account, provide legal provision, and of course go through a number of certification tests. There is nothing new here. That's already the procedure that applied to the existing participants. There are two things which are specific to non-banks. The first one is that non-bank PSPs, on top of the different elements, they need to provide a statement confirming that they are in compliance with the relevant provisions of the PSD. So depending on how the PSD has been implemented in the national law, these statements may either be issued by the national competent authority or signed by the competent management body of the non-bank PSP. And besides the provision of that statement at the time of the application, the non-bank PSP will also have to renew that statement on a yearly basis. That's the first difference. The second difference in the application process is the fact that the non-bank PSPs will have to provide the central bank with information which is necessary to calculate the maximum holding amount, the limit that I was referring to on the previous slide. So that's a number of statistics that would have to be provided to the National Central Bank. Can move to the next slide. Thank you, which is the last one actually for that presentation. So as already indicated, non-bank PSPs, they have already started to approach their central bank in view of possibly establishing a direct connection in target. With the support of the national central banks, we have tried to estimate, even if it's at high level, the number of connections that we might be facing in the coming month. We presently, so based on the information we have collected, we presently expect that there would be some tens of new connections. We also see that there is a very heterogeneous geographical distribution with, in most of the cases, one or two non-bank per banking community, and almost 2/3 of those that we have recorded in one specific banking community. So not a very homogeneous geographical distribution. The first information that we have collected tend to indicate that non-banks are mainly seeking an account on T2, on the RTGS, for settling their cash obligation in the other FMIs. At least for the time being, there are only a few of them which are looking for an account on TIPS. So from the information we have collected so far, we have no clear indication that non-bank PSPs would eventually have a major implication on the operation of target services, neither in terms of the traffic that they may bring, nor in terms of the changes that they would trigger on the participation structure. We will anyway continue to monitor how the non-bank PSPs are onboarded on target and how their business is developing. So that's thanks a lot for your attention. That was the end of the presentation, and perhaps we can take some questions from the audience.
Yes, Sylvain, thank you so much. A lot of information here. We have a lot of people interested in this topic. So we were even receiving questions before you even got started, Sylvain. So good on that. But we've been looking at these questions. I think you answered most of them already, but we will pick up a few. And I'm just reposting here in case somebody joined later. This is the place to ask questions. So you take your little smartphone and you scan the QR code, and via this link, you can post as many questions as you like to Sylvain here on the non-banks. So I will just give Sylvain a 30-second breather, because what we keep referring to here a few times in today's event is that we publish this on the website. And that is true. And good luck and welcome to the ECB website. It is a massive place. And sometimes it can be maybe a little bit challenging to navigate this place of the ECB website. But I want you just to give you a little bit of a heads up on where to go. So the place you want to be is under payments and financial stability. So top bar, that's the place. Once you get to this place, we have a specific area just for the target services. So target services, if you mouse over that, you basically get all the different services that we have in operation on the right-hand side of the screen now. And here at the very bottom, we have this place called Target Professional Use Documents and Links. And here in this section of the website, you can find all the more technical parts of the target services. So the page looked like this, and it's split up then based on the different services. So this is a good place to just write somewhere in the back of your mind. This is the place to go and find more technical documents about the different services. So they're really set up. I think we have it on the next slide. So they're a little different, but you see that they're all set up in a way where that should help you as users of our services to easily find more technical information about their services in operation. So that's a good place to just take a mental note of that. I also just want to quickly highlight another place that is good to remember. So on the next slide, you will see another section of the website still under the payments and financial stability. It's on the opposite, so right on the left-hand side of the screen, you have payments, news, and events. If you click on this, you will get to the page where, for instance, we live stream this event. So this is a good place where you can keep up to date about what are the events that we have on the plate for you ahead of us, and you can also revisit and view again all the information that we presented to you in past events. As said before, on this page we will be posting the recording of this event, including all the slides shown. So you will have the opportunity to go back and find all this later. It's also in this section that you will be finding any news. So the news that Sylvain was mentioning before that we issued on the change of date for the non-banks access to T2, that was also published in the section on the news. But that was it for me. I want to bring Sylvain back because Sylvain, I think we have a few questions that you may want to dive into. Maybe there's a few of the reminders of the things you went through, but anyway, let's give it an opportunity for the people. So over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Eileen. There is a question that's Q6 in our list, whether the names or the identity of the non-banks will be publicly disclosed, and the answer is yes. Non-banks will be treated as credit institution. There is a directory of the different services, be it T2 or TIPS, and when a non-bank is connecting as direct participant, it will be recorded, it will be listed as the other participants. There is also question 7 as to how we are defining non-bank PSPs. That's something we have also covered in the presentation. Non-bank is a generic term. What we mean more specifically are payment institution and electronic money institution as defined under the PSD. We are only offering access to these two categories, not to further categories of non-bank, which is a broader concept. Perhaps I may also add another question which is not in the list, but I just forgot to say. For me, it went without saying, but I prefer to clarify. The rules that I was presenting today, they apply to the euro, to the services, to the settlement services that we are providing in euro, in T2 or in TIPS. You know that already for some months, or even more, for some of them, we have as well Swedish krona and Danish krona. These central banks have their own policy when it comes to access to non-banks. The one I was presenting today is only the access to euro-denominated accounts, so the Eurosystem rules. And also a question which was not asked, but perhaps it's better that I clarify as well. When I was referring to the limit that will be imposed on the holding of the non-banks, this is a limit which is not going to be technically enforced, meaning that when you are reaching your limit and you have new payments coming on the account, we are not going to reject the account because it could bring your balance above the limit. That would be too disruptive for the smooth settlement of transactions in our system. It's just that at the end of each day, we will be looking as to whether the non-bank PSPs have been above the limit, and if it's the case, then there would be a penalty applying. But it's more an ex post verification. It's nothing that is implemented in real time. And perhaps for the sake of time, I would be stopping
exactly.
here.
Super, Sylvain. No, thanks so much. I think we covered them. I think most of the other questions were already covered in the slides. So we just had the super engaged viewers here responding even before you started. So thank you so much, Sylvain. We will keep you in the meeting. So in case more comes up that we feel we have to answer, we will bring you back on. So thanks to Sylvain. And then I want to bring on our next speaker. I'm delighted to have Karen with us today. Karen is head of division at the Market Infrastructure Development Department at the ECB. And Karen will talk about tips and improving the cross-border payments. So Karen, over to you and welcome.
Thank you very much, Eileen. And first of all, I'd just like to say I'm very happy to see such a great interest in our focus session on the future of target services. So yes, indeed. So I'm responsible with my division for the evolution of the target services. That means to us the projects, the changes in terms of release changes, the onboarding of new markets and initiatives. So we are on the project management side, of course, together with other divisions to make that happen. And today we're going to be glancing into the future of TIPS and what we are planning for the cross-currency payments. So we can go over to the next slide. I'd like to start with a quote from Piero Cipollone. Now, Piero Cipollone is our executive board member responsible at the ECB for market infrastructure and payments. And at a regional governors meeting in April this year in Croatia, he said that the pressing need is not just a regional concern, it's a matter of urgency worldwide. And the Eurosystem is responding proactively to challenges in line with the G20 roadmap for enhancing cross-border payments. Now, that's really important, and I'd like to pick up the G20 roadmap as a topic on the next slide. Just to also mention, we all know that probably that cross-border payment flows are increasing and they're projected to double by 2030, but there's been quite slow progress and some challenges experienced. So what we would like is greater transparency, greater speed, lower costs, and those are the targets of G20, but there hasn't been fast enough progress towards them. I'll give you a few examples about that. So the average cost of an international retail payment remains high. So for 1/4 of global payment corridors, the cost still exceeds 3%. And that's a lot. We also experience a second example, 1/3 of retail cross-border payments took more than one business day to be settled in 2024. So here we are moving to a world of instant payments, fast payments, and we are, as a Eurosystem, following the targets of the G20. Another issue that we are seeing worldwide is the geopolitical tensions are happening. I'll give you a keyword, and I think everybody knows that we are seeing the fragmentation of the global financial system into non-communicating blocks. And here, these are challenges that we are facing in line with, in our objectives to, for the G20 objectives, but the G20 believes that fast payment systems are a promising tool for action. Now we go on to the next slide, and I'm going to be taking TIPS as an example. What is the Eurosystem doing to meet those objectives of the G20 in terms of cross-border payments? Now, TIPS is multi-currency by design. We have 3 currencies on our platform. Euro was there since the beginning, November 2018. The Swedish krona joined us in February 24, so February last year. And over Easter, the Danish market joined us as well with instant payments and had a very successful onboarding, actually not only TIPS, but also T2. So these 3 currencies, I just want to give you an insight on our volumes for these 3 currencies so that we can also think about the potential for cross-border amongst the currencies in TIPS. I'm going to take a random day, the 15th of May, as an example. On that day, we settled 7.7 million transactions, so instant payments on the TIPS platform. 3.3 million of them were in euro, 2.8 in Swedish krona, and the remaining, so around 1.6 million in Danish krona. So just to give you a feeling for where we are, and on a weekend, so over 3 days, we typically settle around 20 million transactions in TIPS. Now, looking also towards the future is, and this is something that Ulrich mentioned earlier on, the Norwegian Central Bank is interested in joining us with the Norwegian krona for their market, and also Iceland has sent a letter of intent to join us on TIPS. So that's just looking into the future and our potential for cross-currency. I'll go to the next slide now. And now this is the point of the presentation. We want to enable cross-currency, cross-border payments within the EU. And priority number 1 for us is on our platform, the currencies that we have and are still joining us in the future. Now, TIPS is ideal for our cross-currency because of several reasons. One is we're 24/7 already, and we can ensure instant payments also for cross-currency on our payment, so end-to-end instant payments. Now, the settlement is in central bank money, as all of our central bank systems, and the project that we're here speaking about is run jointly by the Eurosystem, the Riksbank, and Denmark's Nationalbank to enable cross-currency. But our solution is currency agnostic. That means that other currencies that join us in the future can just also join easily the cross-currency initiative. So I'm going to go to the next slide now and speak about how we are implementing cross-currency or cross-border payments, and by when you could expect it. So we are implementing the so-called enhanced linked transaction settlement model. And what is that? The model is about settling end-to-end the transaction in both currencies at the same time as an all or nothing approach. So it means either both legs of the transaction will settle or they both will not settle. And the situation that we have today where one leg might settle and the other, where the PSP has to manage it in another platform or another currency might not settle, is mitigated. The risk is mitigated with our enhanced linked transaction settlement model. So we think that we're bringing value with this model to our cross-border payments. If you're interested in the technical details, please take a look on the website. Eileen showed you how to navigate a bit in the website. You'll find our change request, number 65 it is, for the enhanced linked transaction model. Our technical go live is planned for October this year, so it's really quite soon. And our so-called business go live will probably be a bit later. And we are working together with 13 PSPs who've sent us a letter of intent and who are supporting this service and are interested in participating. Now, just to mention that for these 13 PSPs, we are setting up a new industry task force to consult on the topics that are important for the implementation of the cross-border service, the cross-currency service. We're gaining insights from them on the design of our model and what is good for them as a solution, what is fit for purpose. We're also assisting them to get ready and to bring benefits to their end customers as well. Now, let's go on to the next slide where I'm going to be talking about beyond TIPS. So I've talked about the currencies in TIPS. I've talked about cross-currency service initiatives that we're having in TIPS, but we're also looking beyond TIPS, platform to platform instant payment links. Ulrich referred to it this morning as interlinking. And for the interlinking, we are leveraging on the EPC's OCT scheme and, of course, also our enhanced linked transaction settlement model. The Governing Council approved last year the exploration for the Project Nexus, which was started up by the Bank of International Settlements, the BIS, and that is a multilateral hub. Currently, it will initially have the links with Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and the India. And the reason, and this is really important for us to explore our potential participation there, because TIPS could become and could evolve into a hub for processing cross-border instant payments to and from the euro area. And that is why it's strategically important to us. The other initiative that's been requested by the Governing Council for exploration is with India, with UPI, Unified Payments Interface, and this for us would be a bilateral connection. And you might ask yourself, why UPI? Why is UPI important to us? Now, you probably know that UPI has the largest instant payment transaction volumes in the world. They have about 400 million transactions they settle per day. And for the business case of remittance, it's particularly important because they're among the top 10 recipients of euro area remittances. So that's why we are interested in exploring with India a bilateral link. Now, that's not the end of the line. We certainly will be continuing to explore, and others have also asked about platform-to-platform instant payments. Now, actually, there's quite a long queue of interest, to be honest. And just to mention that if you're interested in connecting to us on cross-border payments, reach out to us on tips@ecb.europa.eu. And I'm moving forward yet. We'd like to hear about your strategy towards instant payments, so feel free to send us an email. Now, I'd like to then move on to the last slide that I have. So you've heard about cross-currency payments. That's on our strategic roadmap, but it's not the only initiative. And just to mention, our strategic pillars for the TIPS evolution is that we want to be a state-of-the-art instant payments platform. We want to be resilient in terms of operational resilience, and we want to remain and nurture being the backbone of pan-European reachability. So keeping TIPS relevant, keeping TIPS attractive is certainly at the bottom of at the start point of our strategic pillars. And that is why cross-border payments, we see that as part of our roadmap. Now, that's not the only initiative we're going for in TIPS, but I'll give you a few examples of other initiatives that you should look out for. Of course, the instant payments regulation, we are performing adaptations here to the scheme. And also related to the instant payments regulation is the verification of payee. There was a question in the chat about that as well. To mention that within the Eurosystem, the Central Bank of Latvia and the Central Bank of Portugal are offering those services, so the verification of payee services for us. We are also, of course, in our strategic initiatives onboarding other non-Euro communities. And you've heard and you've seen earlier in my presentation, Norway, Iceland are there for future onboarding initiatives. Now, the other initiative that I'd like to point out around TIPS is that we are going to be implementing non-time critical payments as well. And we've scheduled a focus session, a separate one from this one, on the 3rd of June for a deep dive into the non-time critical payments. So if you're interested to hear from us on non-time critical payments, please look out for that invitation and please register. We look forward to seeing you again. It's going to be a very interesting one as well. So at this point, I'd like to say thank you for your attention, and I'd be handing back to Eileen for a moment while I look at the questions that have come up.
Thank you, Karen. Yeah, super excellent. So that was a deep dive into the cross-currency, cross-border payments that we also have in the making. So that was a lot from Karen. So now I think it's time to switch it a little bit and bring it back to you guys. So I want everyone, again, stretch your legs, stand up, shake your shoulders a little bit, and grab your phones. Normally I would never say that, right? So don't get distracted, but grab your phone and scan the QR code. And then we just want to ask you a few questions about cross-border payments. Just so we get a bit of input from you, because it's a very good session for us both to get some feedback from you, and also, of course, for you to get a lot of feedback from us. So it's two ways. And just to engage you a little bit, so just take a minute here, scan the QR code and answer these questions. It's super quick. It's like multiple choice, just tick, 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 with a possibility to add a little bit of text if you want to. And while you do that, and think about potentially more questions for Karen, or prepare already for the next sessions, I might just bring Karen back. There was one or two questions, maybe. I think we've answered most of them, Karen, but maybe we just want to highlight a little bit on some of the questions that were asked. I think there was maybe a little bit of confusion about how to be able to send Swedish kroner or Danish kroner payments. Maybe you want to say a word on that.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So, today we have mono currency settlement in tips. So in future, we will have cross-border payments. We will be using the scheme that is similar to the EPC OC. Well, it is the OTC, the OCT scheme of the EPC, and adapted also a little bit to the other the Nordic scheme. So for the participation, for direct participation, there's a need to get in contact with the central bank. So either with the Riksbank or with the Danish central bank, and to set up a participation. Or of course, you can go via another bank doing the currency conversion. So if you'd like to deep dive into that, please get in contact with us. As I mentioned, we already have 13 PSPs, interested PSPs in the service who are working with us, and we will have a dedicated task force for that. Feel free to get in contact with us, and we can give you a lot more information if you're interested. And we're always interested to speak to you about your strategy around cross currency. So that's an exciting future. Now, I've seen as well in one of the questions that we've answered at the beginning, or asked you, and you've answered in the beginning about which currency corridors you might be interested in. We're taking note of all of those answers. I do see that most of you are interested in US dollar. So we'd have to continue the discussions with the Fed on that one. That might be something for the future, but nothing concrete yet. Otherwise, we are also taking note that you've confirmed your interest in Swedish krona and Danish krona and also Norwegian krona. Thank you for that. Other currencies there as well. Thanks for your openness and your input there. We are looking at how we can achieve that. So first step will be the currencies on our platform. And then second step, platform to platform. We're working in parallel, though, on those initiatives.
Excellent. Thank you, Karen. So super here. I see people are very interested already in the future, but let's just be on today for today. Already a lot of currencies in tips, so let's start using those. And thank you to Karen. I will also hope you will stay with us in case more pop up, but I see that we are really hitting on time here. So everyone's very interested. We have lots of content still to share. So I want to bring in our next speaker. And with us, we're changing topic completely now. So moving a little bit away from the payment side and now into the security side. And for the next item, which is T2S T+1 initiative, we have George, who's Deputy Head of Market Infrastructure and Development Division at the ECB. So I want to bring in George and let him dive into the topic of T+1. So George, over to you. Thank you.
Morning, Eileen. Thank you very much. Am I audible and visible?
You are indeed.
Thank you. So the idea is to indeed provide you an update on a topic that we assume that occupies quite a bit of your bandwidth in your institutions these days. It's the move to T+1, formally announced by the Commission and the EU public authorities last year. Just to clarify upfront, the focus here is from the ECB perspective, and I would say a specific ECB role, which is as operators of the target services and as responsible for the evolution of target services. There are different also roles in the ECB from an oversight policy or supervision perspective, which we do not cover today. So a bit of background, some of it may be known to most of you, but perhaps always good to be on the stable base. This is a policy project, first of all, and the idea is that by shortening the settlement cycle, there is also the idea to manage better the so-called market and counterparty risk, basically by shortening the gap between the moment of trading to the moment of settlement. Europe is in the T+2 framework today, and the idea is to move to T+1. A bit of history, just to recap, EU was quite in the forefront of all these discussions and implementations, because back in 2014, there was a move from I would say, non-harmonized settlement cycles in Europe to the T+2. The ECB and the T2S, the Target 2 Securities project at that time, was a catalyst to move to T+2. The idea was you bring all these jurisdictions in a single platform. It makes sense to have a single settlement cycle for managing corporate actions and other activities. In the meantime, the US has, I would say, moved ahead of us and moved to T+1 last year. And the challenge we are facing today is that in a multifaceted, multi-jurisdictional environment of Europe, also in collaboration with Switzerland and the UK, we try to bring all these markets to T+1 by October 2027. This is the deadline that was announced last year by the European Commission. So moving a bit, deep diving a bit into the organization in Europe and in the Eurosystem, there has been the establishment of, I would say, the coordination layer of public authorities. The ECB, the Commission, ESMA is part of this coordination committee. But there's a lot of activity in the private sector in Europe. There is the EU T+1 Industry Committee that is coordinating the efforts in the market. And there is a multiplicity of work streams. I will not name all of them today. I think there's 7 or 8 of them looking at various aspects of the financial transaction life cycle, trading, clearing, settlement, securities financing transactions. And there is also a dedicated work stream on the operational timeline, which is, I would say, the summary of all the activities into potentially what we are going to see as a market recommendation. There are close to 1,000 registered participants I've seen in this work stream. That's very encouraging and shows that there is a lot of engagement in the market. In parallel, the ECB and the T2S Target 2 Securities, I would say, community within its own governance has created a dedicated task force back in January 2025, focusing on taking stock of the discussions that take place in the market, the EU public authorities reports of last year, and looking forward into what is feasible to adapt and change within T2S in the next 2 years. To be a bit more specific on the interaction and interplay between these two governances, so the EU market governance and the T2S governance, already at the beginning of May, the ECB Market Infrastructure Board, the MIB, shared a contribution, is the right word, with the industry committee, looking at the perimeter of what is possible and feasible to adapt in T2S within the next 2 years in order to support the CSDs, their clients, and eventually the market moving to T+1. This contribution, it's currently taken into account by the European governance, and the expectation is that by the end of June, there will be market recommendations published, and some of them we expect to be relevant also for T2S. Perhaps 2 clarifications here. We understand that after June 2025, there will be follow-up with further market consultations on the European industry recommendations. And also the other side of the coin, we plan as of July this year to start what we call the change and release management process in T2S, in Target 2 Securities, because October 27th may sound far in the future, but in terms of potentially introducing changes to T2S and to the CSDs and the clients connected to T2S, I would say this is already tomorrow. So this process is starting internally in the T2S governance in July. Moving ahead and perhaps deep diving into what these changes could look like. Could go to the next slide. It's important to put up front what is a key objective. The key objective of any potential change to T2S is to maintain as a minimum, and if possible, improve the good settlement efficiency rates that we see today in the T2S environment. So the market is moving to T+1. There will be challenges in terms of managing all the activities in a shorter time gap. And the objective for us is to make sure that there is settlement efficiency in the T2S environment. When I say T2S, we're speaking about 24 jurisdictions in Europe, basically. When we looked into the perimeter of these changes, what is possible and feasible in the next 2 years, we took an approach that we have to do something, we have to adapt. So this is clear, and we already agreed that doing nothing is not an option because some adaptations in timelines will be needed, but also doing everything. Start changing all timelines of T2S and the interdependencies with the other target services in the whole market. It's also probably not possible, if not unrealistic. We also wanted to substantiate any changes based on data and evidence. We all know that this is desirable. Sometimes it's difficult, but I would say at least as a starting point, the status quo provides us with a lot of information. And we also acknowledge and recognize that nobody has a crystal ball, and we don't know exactly how the market will behave in 2 or 3 years from now. So room for further adaptations in the future. The identified options that the MIP and the T2S governance has identified at this stage, and it's already shared with the industry committee, is that it's twofold, I would say. First, some adaptation on what we call the nighttime settlement cycles or sequences. We don't need to become too technical today on this. They will need to be adapted. As I said, the time gap between trading, clearing, a settlement is shortening in view of the move to T+1. And that means that what was, let's say, desirable and feasible today would need to be adapted. I will not go into exact times and during the night settlement, but I think we can say with certainty we need to extend and perhaps push back a little bit the settlement cycles and the nighttime settlement. In addition, we are also considering, subject to further analysis in the T2S governance, to enhance the optimization tools we use during the nighttime settlement, a typical one called partial settlement, and we try to see how we can make sure that this is available in all settlement sequences during the nighttime settlement. When I know already that the questions that will be coming, or the let's say occupying the market ecosystem these days, are more changes feasible and possible? I would say yes. We can always change the timelines in T2S, but we have to strike a balance of what we can assess, deploy, test, and make available in the next 2 years. In principle, I would say changing a timeline in target services per se is not a functional difficulty. The more challenging aspect is the potential impact of any critical deadlines, cutoff times, timelines may have in other target services, but also in the operations that all of you as settlement agents, treasurers, custody agents, you may be facing. So changes are possible beyond what I just mentioned, but the discussion will go on in parallel to the move to T+1, and we can always consider changes also after the go live. To conclude, and it's just a visual representation, if we go to the next slide, we are between, I would say, between May and June. The T2S governance has contributed its views to the EU governance. The ball is back to the market. We expect end of June the recommendations, and already from as of the summertime 2025, the machinery of the T2S change and release management process will be in place. We need to document, define, develop the changes, deploy them, test them, and we are rather confident that they will be in place approximately, I would say, Q2 2025 in view of being ready for October 2027. I hope I did not bombard too much, Eileen, with the T+1. I will pause here. I'm happy to take any questions or clarifications.
Excellent. Thank you, George. Lot of info here, and we're changing topics, so I can see also people are delayed on some of the questions. So we're having some questions pop in now again on the on our T2 topic at the beginning, on the non-bank topic. That maybe we should just pause 1 second, pause George 1 second, and then let George breathe. Because I also have a question for him, but then we could maybe bring Sylvain back and then just look at a few of these questions. Sylvain, again, I think we have answered most of them, but there are a few ones popping in. So I don't know if we need maybe just to clarify a little bit on the non-bank topic again. So if you're still with me, we have some of the questions on our participants. So now we're back to the non-banks in T2 topic. All right. So we're just everyone zoom back to where we started. Are those participants obliged to the minimums reserve? You spoke about that. Can you just remind the colleagues a little bit on that and a few other topics for me, Sylvain?
Yeah, the minimum reserve requirement is not linked so much to the the fact of holding an account in target services. It's more linked to the status and closely linked to the fact of being a monetary policy counterparty or not. So in principle, because of their status and their business, the non-banks are not subject to minimum reserve. That's why I have not covered it, because they are minimum reserve requirements. That's for credit institution in general.
Super, Sylvain. Also, we have a few questions about the relationship that you see between other clearing settlement mechanisms and T2. Do you want to say a bit on that?
Well, there were different questions indeed on, what are the possibilities for the non-banks to have an account with the CSM but not in TIPS, or to have an account in TIPS and in the CSM. I have a very easy answer to all these questions. There is no difference. If you look at what is possible and not possible, there is no difference between the way we treat credit institutions and non-banks. So whatever is possible today for non-banks, for banks remain possible tomorrow for non-banks, and what is not possible won't be possible either for non-banks. There is no difference in the way we treat them.
Excellent. Thank you. I think that might have covered most of them. I'm just scrolling through here because people are waking up on things. Did you spot anything else that you think we did not cover?
Well, there was also a question of, for instance, you are a non-bank, can you have an account in TIPS without having an account in T2? That's perfectly possible, the way it's already possible today with the banks. I'm not sure it's the best way to manage the liquidity, but that's another question. At least in terms of rules, that's something which would allow.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sylvain. So we're going to close non-banks for now. Thanks for being active out there. It's really good. We like this. Lots of content going on today. George, can I bring you back in? Because now you had 30 seconds. Because we also have a question on the move to T+1. And then will T2S then stop with the nighttime settlement already processing the next value day? Can you talk a little bit about that? What happens when we move into the T+1 compared to nighttime, daytime settlement?
Yes, no, it's a valid question, Eileen. Thank you for that. So basically, today, the gap between trading and settlement, it's approximately 26 hours, let's say, for any security financing transactions or any preparations for settlement. And this indeed, as of October 27, will squeeze to a few hours, depending on the end time of the trading. So what we are considering, because at the moment there is no decision, but what we are considering is the nighttime settlement activity starts approximately 8:30 today and is complete by 10:30. We are thinking of pushing that back a bit later in the night so we can give a bit more breathing space to all CCPs, their clients, to prepare, I would say, the operations before instructing T2S. This is what we are looking at. Now, the question, what will happen if trading venues go later in the night, or if we go to 24/7, we hear on the other side of the Atlantic a lot of excitement about that. I would say we'll have to strike a balance. T2S and target services will always try to support the market, accommodate these changes, but the answer cannot be always let's squeeze and let's shrink the T2S settlement availability, let's say, ab infinitum. I think we mentioned, and Ulrich mentioned before, the survey and the interaction we are going to have with the market on 24/7 for all target services. If one day we go to continuous trading and settlement, I would say everything has to happen in parallel somehow. It will not be a cascade effect of, I don't know, going trading at 12 o'clock at midnight and then pushing T2S in the morning. We will not do that because it goes against, I would say, any safety regulatory requirements to have extended times of settlement availability. So the short answer is we will adapt gradually, a bit later in the night. If the market in the coming years moves to very wide open trading hours, we have to interact with the market, with our stakeholders, and find the right moment in time that your settlement instructions will need to come to T2S.
Thank you, George. Super. So I think we've covered T2S now. Now we're moving into the last part of our event today, but maybe everyone should just get up wherever you are. Do 5 squats, like really deep ones. We can go really deep this time. So we get some blood flowing, because now we're going to bring the last topic on today's event. And I'm really excited to have Irene with us today. She's Deputy Head of Market Infrastructure and Management Division. And she will talk about something super interesting coming up. It's the ECMS and going live very soon now. And Irene will talk us through some operational aspects of that. So welcome, Irene, and over to you.
Hi, good morning, everybody. So thank you very much, Eileen, for the introduction. As you said, I'm Irene or Irene Katsalirou. I mean, I can hear to all variations of my name. And I'm the Deputy Head of Market Infrastructure Management Division, and where we operate the target services. And Sylvain, of course, is in the same division as I am. So we will now focus on another significant milestone in the evolution of Eurosystem's market infrastructure, which, as Ulrich mentioned in his opening remarks, is the last piece of the Eurosystem's 2020 vision puzzle, namely the launch of the Eurosystem Collateral Management System, the so-called ECMS. ECMS is planned to go live on the 16th of June, and will replace the current collateral management systems used by the Eurosystem national central banks. If we move to the next slide, you will see that on the 16th of May, the Eurosystem, the ECB Governing Council approved the ECMS Go Live following positive assessments and extensive testing. And we published on the ECB website also this piece of information. Now it's time for us to prepare ourselves for the ECMS operations. Moving to the next slide, first of all, when will ECMS be available for operations? So ECMS will be operating from Monday to Friday following the Euro target calendar. And I'm saying Euro target calendar because we have differentiated a little bit since the onboarding of the Danish krona on target, and which follows a little bit of a different, let's say, calendar. So we stick to our Euro target calendar because we settle Eurosystem credit operations in ECMS. ECMS will be closed on weekends, of course, and holidays. And you can see here the holidays, the few holidays in the year that it will be closed, and it follows exactly the target holidays, and like New Year's Day or Christmas and Easter. Moving now to what the ECMS operational day will look like. So each ECMS business day will start at 6:45 in the afternoon of the previous calendar day. There are dedicated time windows for processing instructions and conducting system maintenance. The nighttime process, running from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., is reserved for tasks such as updating collateral positions and calculating accruals on outstanding debit and credit operations. During this time, the settlement of open market operations and marginal lending requests by sending corresponding payments to target is also taking place. The system is closed for maintenance during a designated window from midnight, shortly after midnight, so 12:30, until 2:30. The daytime process begins at 7 a.m. and continues until 6 o'clock in the afternoon. This is the period dedicated for processing instructions from counterparties, such as mobilization and demobilization of marketable assets and credit claims, as well as requests for marginal lending. Information from tri-party agents, like reporting on flows, is also processed during this time. Other key activities, including the processing of corporate action events, recording the results of open market operations allotted during the day, and transmitting updated credit lines to CLM, to our Central Liquidity Management in Target, are conducted during the daytime process. The end of day process lasts only for 45 minutes between 6 and 6:45 in the afternoon, and is used to close the ECMS business day. This involves tasks like sending asset-related information to T2S and tri-party agents, and generating, of course, end-of-day reports that are required by the stakeholders. What is important to note is that access to the marginal lending facility is extended by 15 minutes on the last day of the reserve maintenance period. So all the days, let's say the opening ECMS days, we are following this calendar, which I just described, with the exception of the last day of the reserve maintenance period, where we extend by 15 minutes, and it is exactly what is happening also in T2. In contingency situations, of course, cutoff times may be adjusted or extended as needed, and we will have to see on a case-by-case basis. Moving now to the operational structure of ECMS operations. The new system will not alter existing business and legal relationships between counterparties and national central banks. Counterparties, central securities depositories, so the CSDs, and tri-party agents will continue to contact their usual contacts at the relevant national central bank for matters related to monetary policy, intraday credit, and collateral management. So, in other words, we keep the principle of decentralization as it is now. Each Eurosystem national central bank retains full responsibility for business relationships with participants and operates what we call a national service desk to assist in meeting its obligations. In line with this, its Eurosystem National Central Bank defines its national support level for its community during normal and incident scenarios. The National Service Desk also serves as a single point of contact for community participants and is addressing queries, servicing requests, and handling incidents. During normal operating hours, all National Service Desks shall remain accessible and provide support to their communities from 7 o'clock in the morning, when we start with the ECMS operations for the daytime, until 6:15 in the afternoon. And this is what will be done across all Euro area countries. Moving now to incident management. It's important to address how we handle a situation when things don't go as we have planned. An incident, which we defined as an unplanned interaction or a reduction in the quality of an agreed service, can disrupt, of course, standard operations. These incidents can be identified immediately or may become apparent later if they do not have such a big disruption, for example. Our incident management process is crucial in such scenarios and ensures that services are restored as quickly as possible, minimizing any adverse impact on business operations. It is designed to manage the life cycle of incidents by promptly identifying and resolving them while keeping all national central banks and participants informed on the status. And I have to say that we have spent quite a lot of time on identifying together the ECB, together with the 4CB and all national central banks, these scenarios and finding out how to resolve each of them. If we move to the next slide, the ECMS incident management encompasses several key activities to ensure minimal disruption and quick recovery. These activities include, first of all, the detection of the ongoing issue. Identifying the problem as soon as it occurs is crucial. It's important to note that incidents can also be detected by ECMS participants, not only by the national central banks or the ECB or the 4CB. Therefore, participants should promptly contact their respective NCB, which serves as the single point of contact for reporting such issues. Once the incident is detected, efforts are made at Eurosystem level to resolve it or implement a temporary workaround to mitigate its impact. Business continuity as failover, for example, to the secondary side, can also be activated. This is the same business continuity measure we have for T2 and T2S. In certain situations, contingency measures such as acting on behalf of affected parties may also apply. These structured activities, as I said, within the incident management process are designed to restore services promptly. And during this incident management life cycle, the ECMS communities will be kept informed. Moving now to the next slide. What I would like to say is that effective communication is key, especially during incidents, and we need to ensure that all stakeholders are kept informed of the system's operational status. As of Friday, the 13th of June, when we will start our migration activities, ECMS, as part of target services, will have an operational status box on the ECB website, which you can see also on this slide. This will serve as a centralized source where up-to-date information about the system's status is provided. One can also search for communications we have published in the past by clicking on the See Historical Information link. So we keep all historical communication. So in case we have updated the status of ECMS with another message, you can go and you can see what we had communicated, let's say, in the previous hours or in the previous days. Importantly, the information we will be sharing on the ECB website is collectively agreed upon by all national central banks. So it's not the ECB is providing this communication to the public, but it is a communication we have agreed at Eurosystem level. What also I can say is that anyone can subscribe to receive email alerts about changes in the real-time operational status of target services. And this feature ensures that all interested parties are promptly informed of any updates. Moving to the next slide. While the standard message on the ECB website would be hopefully that ECMS is operating normally, specific communication is envisaged in the event of an incident. In this case, the ECMS operational status box will be updated as quickly as possible with brief and factual information about the system's status. If an incident affects ECMS participant but is resolved shortly after its detection, as I mentioned before, this information may be communicated retrospectively via the ECB's website, but also from the NCBs. Additionally, NCBs may share with their communities further communication with more detailed information if they deem it appropriate. And shifting now our focus to the next slide, where we have a few words about the operational related tests. So they, as you know, they have been conducted with communities as an integral part of the ECMS project. We had planned 26 operational related tests to ensure that, let's say, important operational processes that we have designed work properly and with all parties that should be involved in each of them. So as far as I remember, we have conducted 25 out of the 26, and we are shortly going to conduct the next one, the last one, and we will be over and ready for the go live. But looking ahead, operational related tests will be scheduled after the ECMS go live. And this is a standard practice that we follow for all target services. We have specific scenarios and we conduct these tests in order to ensure that even if we have not used some specific procedures, that all parties are able to conduct them. Guidance on participation in these tests and the specific tasks involved will be provided at national level by its NCBs. And moving to my last slide, to summarize, let's highlight again the main takeaways from today's discussion. By maintaining the principle of decentralization for the use of the system, we ensure that the relationships between national central banks and their communities do not change and remain strong. Any identified incident should be promptly reported to the respective national central bank to ensure swift resolution and minimal disruption. Lastly, stay informed about the ECMS status through the ECB website and your respective national central bank. With the green light from the Governing Council, the countdown, as we say, has officially started. We are now focused on finalizing preparations to ensure a seamless migration. As operations are set to start at 7 o'clock on Monday morning on the 16th of June, it is crucial that we are all prepared diligently for this significant milestone. And let's continue to work together to ensure everything is in place for a smooth start. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Irini. Super. So we're already 16th of June coming super fast. I have some participants here even moving beyond that and asking about general release, like releases of the system. But I think here we can just say that ECMS, like the other target services, will follow the normal target service release planning procedure on that. There's a few questions coming in, but maybe, Irene, I'll give you just 1 minute to breathe, and then Karen, I will just bring you in, just keep everyone on their toes here, you know, as jumping a bit on the topic. So
thanks, Eileen.
Karen back in, and 2 questions for you, Karen. On tips, we're back on tips now, and on the cross currency, and we have people asking about non-EEA currencies in tips. Do you want to say a few words on that, please?
I will. Thanks, Eileen. No, the question, as I understand it, was, is TIPS open for operating IP, so instant payments for non-EEA currencies? And here, a very clear answer: the geographical scope for the TIPS platform is only EEA, and that's per Governing Council mandate. So that is for the TIPS platform itself, EEA only. However, for interlinking and platform-to-platform type of cross-currency transactions, here, of course, we go beyond, and there the non-EEA can also. We spoke about Nexus today. We spoke about India and other countries being potentially in the pipeline. So their non-EEA could also interact, but from their own platform, not from TIPS. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you, Karen. And a little bit related to that, so now we already moved away from Europe and then out with the interlinking, and there was another question on the interlinking question again. And of course, that's more so the different solutions and the different connection. How will all these interact? I think the question is basically, when we go outside of Europe, how are we looking at the interlinking aspects? They're connecting, interacting with other systems.
Yeah, from technical, I'll say a few words about that. Thanks, Eileen. Now, from technical point of view, we are trying to stay very harmonized with this technical solution. That means that the solution isn't going to be very different from one to the other. We are, as I mentioned, based on the EPC OCT scheme features, and we are using the enhanced transaction model. And based on that, we will be doing the cross-currency on TIPS, those transactions, but we'll use in essence the same type of messages, and for harmonization purposes, of course, also for the platform-to-platform communication and interlinking. So we're trying to stay harmonized. We're trying to make it easy to participate, and that would be my answer there for that. Now, I want to clarify something as well, Eileen, that might have been hidden behind this question. It's also very important for interlinking. Now, I spoke about Nexus, I spoke about India and our exploration in that area, just to say that in case we decide to go forward with those cross-currency platform to platform, that it is a decision then of the Eurosystem and the Euro corridor to go forward, and it's independent from the other corridors that are available on TIPS. So it could be even, each Denmark, Danish krona, and also Swedish krona, those corridors, those central banks, they need to make, the same type of exploration, the same type of decision if they would like to use those corridors. I'm just putting that forward. Maybe it wasn't very clear before. Thanks.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you so much for this. So I will let Karen go. Karen can relax for now. And I want to bring Irene back because we have a few questions for you as well, Irene. So there was a few about the econs and what happens in case of fallbacks and your incidents. You discussed incidents a little bit. And can you say a little bit more on what would happen if ECMS had an incident?
Yes, of course. So the one question was if there is a fallback system process for ECMS like econs. which started when T2 production fails. So my response is like ECMS does not have a fallback system similar to ECONS2, but has a contingency arrangement and to ensure that the system is recovered in case of a major failure in a timely manner. So we have the same, let's say, setup like the 2 hours of downtime in case of a major failure. And we could even go to the secondary site, as I mentioned, and we will try our best for operations to restart as soon as possible. There was also another question on ECONS, a little bit different. What about the ECMS operation during a T2 unexpected incident? So if T2 is unavailable and there is activation of ECONS2. So ECMS is a collateral management system, and the interaction with T2 is to inject liquidity. So this is what we have envisaged to do also if T2 is down. So there is a specific contingency feature in ECMS, and we need to activate it once ECONS2 has been activated. And then we inject the liquidity to ECONS2 instead of T2. So there is a communication between ECMS and ECONS2, as there is a communication between ECMS and T2. So that's how we are going to manage this, let's say, event, and hopefully a rare event. Yeah.
Super. Thank you, Irini. Maybe the last question, I think there was a little bit of confusion about what happens between 1800 and 1845. I don't know if you have that in your mind now, or if we can bring that back, the slide on the operational day in ECMS. And the question is basically, what happens in that time slot? There we are. Yeah. Can you say a few words about that?
Yes, of course. So between that time, so when the system is has closed and is about to restart, we will be having the statements of holdings, transaction and pending transactions were foreseen to be, transactions and pending transactions foreseen to be sent shortly after 6:15. So we will have this, let's say, end of day processes. So this is what is going to be happening.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much, Irini. I think that covers it for ECMS.
Thank you very much, all.
Thank you. And that brings us very close to the end of this event. So I want to hand over to Dimitri, who hopefully should be with us listening in here. There you are, Dimitri. Delighted to have you on board. So I want to bring over to you and allow you to give us a few takeaways from what you gathered in today's event. Dimitri.
Yes, indeed. I hope you can see me and hear me well.
Absolutely.
Our purpose today was, for those who attend usually the focus sessions, our purpose today was slightly different compared to what we do usually. Usually we take one topic and then we do a deep dive. Today we wanted to cover a wider spectrum of relevant topics related to the development of the target services. We started with Ulrich Bienzeil, who reminded us, I think, mainly of our Vision 2020 delivery program. Again, we have 3 pillars there. The first one was delivered already in 2018. It was TIPS. That was a very successful launch, not only from the settlement of instant payments in euro, but also from the perspective of attracting other currencies. Since Easter this year, we are settling a third currency, which is a Danish krona. Before that, we onboarded the Swedish krona, and we are, of course, delighted that this is happening. And of course, Ulrich reminded us that there is that this naturally brings us to the ambition of supporting cross-currency settlement of instant payments. The second pillar of the Vision 2020 was the renewal of a large value payment system. So Target 2 became T2. This came together with the delivery of a central liquidity management module called CLM, and also with a higher degree of consolidation between T2, T2S, but also with other target services. And then the third pillar is in the area of collateral management, and it relates to the delivery of ECMS, for which you heard it from Irene, the Governing Council already confirmed the views from the Market Infrastructure Board that we can go live on the 16th of May. So the decision is taken, and so we go live on the 16th of May. Then we move to the more content topics. We heard from Sylvain that the IP regulation and also the related amendments to the SFD make it now possible to support the participation of non-bank PSPs to the target services. Sylvain gave us some insights on the relevant topics, policy topics, especially the ones related to the participation criteria, which need to be objective, risk-based, and also disclosed publicly. He also informed us, unfortunately, that due to the delayed transposition of the requirements, amendments to the SFD into the national legislation in some countries, the adoption of the amendments of the target guidelines have to be postponed from June initially to October 2025. Then we moved on to Karen with a focus on tips and on the work that we do in the fields of cross-border payments. Cross-border payments are, expected to grow significantly in the coming years, but they remain expensive and relatively slow on average. And then Karen reminded us of the G20 objectives and explained the work that we do to support those objectives. And concretely, we are developing a cross-currency capability first for the currencies that have onboarded tips. We call it intra-tips cross-currency, but not only. Beyond that, we have also been mandated by the Governing Council to explore the possibility of what we call platform-to-platform interlinking. And we are currently exploring UPI in India and also Nexus. Karen mentioned that, and I think that is very, very useful to know that there are other fast payment systems knocking at the door now. And of course, we will look into accommodating those requests. Then we had we continued with George and the very topical subject of shortening the security settlement cycle, the famous move to T+1. We heard that there is now a wide consensus on October 2027 being the right timing for switching from T+2 to T+1. George shared a bit on the governance and also on our contribution from the perspective of the T2S governance. And I think here the main message is that we must calibrate. It's important that we calibrate and that we manage to shape a good balance between the ambition and also the pragmatism to make sure that the move to T+1 is a success. And of course, we are working towards, respecting that balance. And last but not least, we covered with Irene the last developments on ECMS, with a focus obviously on the operational aspects. Again, we are now heading towards the go live on the 16th of June, sorry. And as you can imagine, the last weeks are very, very intense, not only on our side, I believe it's the case on all sides, to make sure that the remaining bits and pieces are in place for a successful launch in a few weeks now. We covered the operational day, an overview of the organizational setup, the very important topic of incident management, and also the communication flow that is in place to communicate with counterparties and with the market in general. And again, on ECMS, the main message is that we are now reaching really the last mile before the delivery, and that we are taking all necessary measures to secure a successful launch in actually 3 weeks from now. And to conclude, maybe a word on the attendance. We had a very good and steady attendance of it's a bit lower now, but during the meeting or during the focus session, we had more than 550 people attending, and we are, of course, happy to see this continued very high interest in these focus sessions. A big thank to all speakers, Sylvain, Karen, George, and Irene. You did it very well. Thank you for that. And also a big thanks to the backstage team. Eileen, you have a team, a wonderful team that manages to do a very good organization for such events. And to the people attending, I hope that you found this session insightful. And of course, we'll be happy to welcome you in our future focus sessions. And it's probably now time for me to wish you first a good lunch and then a good afternoon. So back to you, Eileen, and thank you for your attendance.
Thank you, Dimitri. Been a very nice, exciting session indeed, very different than the normal ones. So thanks to everyone. We would just invite you all to give us your feedback. It's 30 seconds, just 2 clicks. So scan this code. It's the last QR code I'm going to show you today. Just scan it, give us your feedback so we can keep improving and do the sessions that are best fit for what you need. So thank you from our side as well. As the backstage team here, we were delighted to have you all on with us today. And as I said, the recordings, everything will be on the website later. But do the little QR code scanning here and give us your feedback, and then enjoy the lunch. Thank you, and goodbye from my side too.